Ruby, look! Space babies!
Wokeness!
Ah, fuck! It's a space crybaby. Oh, I hate those. They're almost as bad as the actual crybabies or man babies that we've seen in the previous couple sketches. Fuck!
This story's too political. It's talking about refugees. And it's got too many blackened women and under 18 actors in it. Oh, and it's written by a gay man, so it's shit.
Oh, it's so annoying. Oh, I wish you had an off switch, even more so than the actual babies. Oh, hold on, Doctor. I've just had an idea. You recall that the computer mentioned something about some sort of pressure build-up in the hold? Yes. Well, apparently, it's where all the space babies' dirty and used nappies have gone. That's where they've all been sent. So they're just being kind of kept there, and it's all the methane and everything is building up, and there's a whole lot of shit and stuff and piss and used nappies and sick and all that other stuff down there. It's kind of building up this whole methane in it, and also there's a trapdoor exactly underneath the space crybaby where it's space crybaby. So if I just press this button right here, we could send them straight down into the hold and into the nappies. Ah, what a good idea. The honour is all yours, Miss Sunday. And bye-bye, Space Crybaby. And boop! Closed. Well, it looks like the day has been saved once again, thanks to the Doctor and Ruby Sunday, who is ultra-based.
Used nappies! I hate used nappies!
That is one great big pile of shit. Right, now that's all over, let's go and meet some proper space babies. Not the ones who are crying space babies. Proper space babies. Let's rock and roll. For the record, the 15th Doctor's personalities in these sketches do not represent his personality in the actual episodes. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who Season 1, Bad Wolf, or new series, the new series, / Series 14 of the Revival, or the old new series, / Season 40 of the show overall, since its beginnings in 1963, so it'll be 61 years later this year, in November. Episode 1, Space Babies. So welcome to my review of Doctor Who Season 1 / Series 14 / Season 40, Episode 1, Space Babies. So I will give my full opinions of this series at the end in the series ranking, but each episode I will discuss my opinions on each one. It'll be a third rewatch for each episode, and might be maybe 4 for Church on Ruby Road, because I'm rewatched that one for the ranking. But yeah, I'm rewatching every episode as per normal, and then doing the reviews. As I mentioned in the reactions, I usually do those after the first, maybe second viewings, and then the reviews after second and or third. So it is taking some time to get around to doing these, partially due to time reasonings, partially because I was supposed to actually rewatch a few episodes
a second viewing of some episodes that I hadn't done at the time and didn't do for a while. And then after those were given a second viewing, I would watch the whole series from Church on Ruby Road onwards again, up to Empire of Death. And second reason is because the Universals reviews, which I will be doing for Rogue and Legend of Ruby Sunday / Empire of Death, so at the end of the series, the other members of the team decided, like with the 60th specials, we would do them more retroactively. The gap was a bit longer this time for partially for that, but also we did Capaldi month in August. So a bit like how we did the 60th ones in January through to March instead of November, December, and start of January for Ruby Road. So that's why that's another reason why, because we're doing them on Hoons and I'm reviewing Rogue and the finale on that. So link videos for those on this channel for those. And because they're being done in September, October, that's why the reviews here are being delayed as well. And I'm going to do reviews of the episodes on this main channel leading up to those two, which again, I'll do link videos to those. And then the ranking video after that. So stay tuned for the upcoming reviews both here and on Universals, which have already started for other members for these earlier episodes. So please do check those reviews out and support the Universals and Tooniversals. So with all that preamble out of the way, Space Babies. So the plot of Space Babies is fairly simple. The 15th Doctor, played by Ncuti Gatwa, in his second outing post-regeneration, not including the end of the giggle, that's the sort of a regeneration / post-regeneration story in one, but Church on Ruby Road serves as his first proper post-regeneration story, or by regeneration in his case. So this is his second story, and like with the 10th Doctor, the post-regeneration story was a Christmas special, so that the second story is the season opener is the second story. So after the events of Church on Ruby Road, Ruby Sunday, played by Millie Gibson, joins the 15th Doctor, played by Ncuti Gatwa, on board the TARDIS for adventures in time and space. After a quick stop back in the dinosaur era, I'm not quite sure exactly which one, they then travel to the far future, where they arrive on a baby farm where they are producing babies. However, the baby farm has been abandoned due to budget cuts, but they can't close it due to it being against the law. So they've just kind of just left it operational, with most of the crew forced to abandon ship, with only one person acting as the nanny, but actually known as Jocelyn, staying behind to look after the babies that have been growing and are now around the age of 6 mentally, but physically still babies, operating and controlling the ship. And at the same time, a monster known as the Boogeyman has somehow appeared on this space station and acting as this scary, nightmarish creature monster on the lower decks of the space station and scaring Jocelyn and the space babies. So the Doctor and Ruby have to try and work out what the Boogeyman is, try and stop it from scaring the space babies, and get the space babies and Jocelyn to this refugee planet a little further away without an engine for the space station. Also, there's a bit more stuff tying into Ruby and the Doctor's relationship, and with the Doctor seeing Ruby's mother on Ruby Road back when she left Ruby at the church, as seen in the previous episode. Actually quite a simple story, and simple it is. So, Space Babies. I'm not going to lie, when I first saw this episode, as well as the second time, it was pretty damn cringy. This was quite a bit of an awkward episode, as it's about space babies. It's about babies in space. But doing this sort of like, I think it's called Little Geniuses, where but you know, there's films where babies are talking like adults or older children, and the mouths are moving, and they have to sync the actors' lips and also sometimes faces onto the baby actors. And that's what they've done here. They've got child actors doing the voices, and they've tried to sync the facial expressions on to the babies themselves with the baby actors. It's some pretty good information on Doctor Who Unleashed talking about that. And whilst I'm on that subject, I like how they did the production of that, because when it's not just the babies in their wheelchair, they also have the remote controlled ones and the puppeted ones. It's pretty cool how to see them do it on a production level. So yeah, it is a little uncanny seeing the babies talking and sounding like a mixture of, well, they're supposed to be 6-year-olds mentally, even though they're in the bodies of babies. Not so much newlyborns, but probably under 6 months. But it is a little uncanny seeing them, like the facial and vocal expressions of a child actor with the character's mentality of being around 6, give or take, but in the bodies of rough, maybe not so much newborns, but less than 6 months. The mentality 6 years. So yeah, it's a bit uncanny, but I have to say the effect is fine. It works. It definitely helped with the characterizations, especially for Eric, the lead baby, and Captain Poppy. The other ones don't really get as much to do, but that's probably just as well. The focus is on the Doctor and Ruby trying to solve the mystery of the boogeyman and their relationship with Jocelyn, and Eric does get a couple of pretty cool moments as well. And there's actually a really good scene where the space babies use a flamethrower to throw off the boogeyman, make him run away. That was a pretty fun scene. So yeah, the CGI on the faces, it can be a bit uncanny, but it's pretty good for a TV budget. Even a Disney Plus part-funded BBC budget in 2024. Oh, hang on, it's 2024 BBC budget. That's why Disney Plus are co-funding it. That was a BBC program's finances cutting joke, if you can tell. Anyway, so yeah, the Space Babies, it is a little strange. It's a bit awkward for Ncuti Gatwa's second outing as the Doctor for the season opener of this series. It is weird that they decided to open with this. Granted, Church on Ruby Road is the jumping off point of the series, but it does give me, like, the whole episode gives me New Earth vibes of, it's the second episode of the new Doctor's run, and in this case also the new companion. And it's also the series opener, but the first story was the Christmas special that preceded it, but that means that it doesn't really feel like season opener material. It feels more like second episode or third episode or later material. It actually feels more like filler episode material with a bit of this is the new status quo added in there, which we do get in the first 10-ish minutes, which is the best part of the story, in my opinion, is the first 10 minutes where the Doctor's giving all his information out to Ruby. They go back in time, the whole stuff with the dinosaur and the Ruby stepping on a butterfly, and then jumping to the space station, meeting the boogeyman for the first time, and then to the deck of the space station before they meet Eric. That's all really great. That first 10 or so minutes is all really brilliant, picking up after the end of Church on Ruby Road, or just before the end, and then up to just before they meet Eric. That's all really great stuff. Someone wrote an article saying why the first 10 minutes of Space Babies may upset Doctor Who fans. I didn't read the article, but I can guess it's because the Doctor has to relay a lot of the same information that we already know from the past. To which my response would be, well, new audiences are jumping on, so you kind of need that, but he does it in such a new and refreshing take that it works just as well for old fans as it does for new. As Russell kind of explained back when they were explaining the Doctor having to tell Martha about him being the last of the Time Lords in Gallifrey, everybody already kind of knew about that already, so they have to talk about it in a new, interesting way to get the stuff across to the new companion, but also so that doesn't sound too boring to the audience, and they decided to go with describing the planet and a bit more with that. And this time around, with the Doctor describing who he is, he's a bit more, well, it starters, he's more tied into the character of the 15th Doctor. And secondly, it's still quite fun information that's being bounced off, and the interactions with Ruby. So I actually thought that was handled pretty well, and I think older fans would actually find it fine, in all honesty. And after how the 60th anniversary specials was basically reintroducing a old actor as a new Doctor and bring back an old companion, and then we're now jumping into this new era, we kind of have to get ourselves up to speed with the Doctor's character if they didn't really talk about that earlier on in the specials. So that whole aspect is fine in my opinion, and the first 10ish minutes are the best parts of the episode, possibly because they don't really do much with the space babies themselves, as that comes after the 10-minute mark, or 9 or 10-minute mark at least. But yeah, that's my opinion the best stuff of the specials. Also the stuff with the Rubicon something or other, when Ruby's transformed into the sort of lizardy person by stepping on the butterfly, is it's a funny if expensive gag. As they mentioned, it's the most expensive gag comedy scene in a Doctor Who episode to date so far. And yeah, because of all the makeup and stuff and the amount of time they'd have to shoot it. But it's still a pretty fun scene. So yeah, the first 10 or so minutes is pretty good, in my opinion. And yeah, after that, I don't hate Space Babies. I think it's fine, enjoyable in places. I was cringing a little bit more at the time of the first viewing because it was really awkward and stuff. Not so much with the second viewing, even though I was watching it with my parents had started watching it at the beginning, but then they had to go out for a bit, and then they came back later after Devil's Court had aired, and we rewatched this one together, and then Andy Unleashed, and then the same with Devil's Court the next day. So second time around, actually, it felt I think I was a little bit less because I knew awkward because I knew what was coming. Even though I was watching it with other people, maybe I should have felt more awkward. With the because they actually left off. They had to go out after that first 10 or so minutes. Or just before the end, but at the end of those first 10 or so minutes. But yeah, it actually surprising it wasn't as awkward on the second viewing, because I suppose because I know what's coming. And then that was back in May, of course, and cut to 4 and a bit months later to September, when I rewatched the episode last night. And more than 4 months later, and I have to say, I actually found it pretty fun, enjoyable. Yeah, it is a bit weird and strange with the space babies, and it doesn't quite work as the first episode of the series. I think it should have been saved for the second episode, just move all the whole discussing everything stuff from the beginning up in front of something else. But, I'm not really sure what other episodes should go first. There isn't really a clear candidate post Ruby Road. There isn't really a proper candidate. Maybe Boom, but I think you still need something in front of that one before. Plus, it's not written by the showrunner. I think the opening and final episode should be writing the showrunner. Then again, I would have said the same about the Christmas or New Year specials, but Stephen Moffat's writing the next one, and he's not the showrunner anymore. And other specials have been co-written by non-showrunner writers, but never really the festive ones. So it'll be the Joy to the World will be the first festive special not written by the current showrunner. I wonder if they'll get another writer, but that wasn't ever a showrunner, to write the 2025 one. That'll be another new thing. But despite no real other good option as the season opener besides Church on Ruby Road, Space Baby still doesn't feel like the best season opener idea. It's still better than New Earth. The other story that felt like it didn't feel like a proper season opener because it followed on the Christmas Invasion. If they opened with Tooth and Claw, I think that one would have been a better season opener, as that sets up stuff for later in the series, and then New Earth is second. But I guess they wanted to do a comedy episode first, which is odd because then part of David Tennant's first episode post regeneration story is him partly possessed by Cassandra. I think they should have opened with Tooth and Claw, and then just put that first scene in front of Tooth and Claw, or extend the opening scene of Tooth and Claw with that first bit, and then what was the pre-titles, and then New Earth is the second episode. Space Babies, I feel like should have been the second episode, but because of the 8-episode runtime, it was, and Church on Ruby Road being New Year Christmas special, it was kind of made to be the opener. I guess that means Church on Ruby Road is the
actual season 1, series 14 opener, much like how the series 11 and series 12 Dalek special and New Year specials were the actual finales, especially for series 11. And I suppose the 2022 specials were the final 3 episodes of series 13. So Power of the Doctor was the actual finale to series 13, even if the last 3 were not Flux episodes. So, I mean, the debate as you will. So, yeah, it's a bit strange. It just feels a bit awkward. It's a little bit weird that Space Babies is the season opener, because it doesn't, outside those first 10-ish minutes, then it doesn't really feel like it. And also the ending where they go back to see Carla and Cherry on Christmas Day, which was nice. That was a nice touch, nice bit. But yeah, also good performance by the actress playing Jocelyn. She gets that character down really well. The kind of desperation, the caring, but also the kind of like she doesn't quite know what she's doing half the time, but she's trying to do her best. The resilience is great. It's pretty cool. And the boogeyman. By the way, I think I might have mentioned it in the reaction, but I guessed what the boogeyman was made of ages in advance. I called that. I called that twist. I mean, it's not an obvious, but it's also not a really hard to hide twist, and not a really shocking one. Like, oh my god, that's what it was made out of. I wouldn't have never guessed it in a million years. Legitimate reaction, not the sarcastic one. No, I mean, it's not terribly obvious, but it's fairly obvious, and you could probably guess it in a heartbeat and probably be proven right. But I think the way that they revealed it was really funny, actually. I thought it was pretty cool. Like, the Doctor's like, I'm reading all of this information. It's really cool stuff. Ah, that's what this is what it's made of. And Ruby's just been covered in slimy stuff. And he's like, okay, that's what it's made of. I don't really want to tell you. She wants to know. Okay, this is what it is. She doesn't like the answer. So yeah, actually this episode's got some pretty good comedy bits in it. I think it's probably the funniest episode of the series. Maybe, I mean, I'm gonna have to rewatch Rogue again, obviously, before I make that statement. It's between this or Church and Ruby Road, maybe Rogue, but I'll make that distinction later. But this episode also has some really good scenes of horror with the boogeyman. Maybe they were trying a bit too hard early on to make it more horror. Although, I do have to say, BBFC, if you rated this 12 just because of those scenes, naughty. No, this episode, despite those scary moments, I think it's still fine as PG. Like, the scary scenes are, like, they're fleeting and they're shocking. You get some of that in PGs as well. So, some of it in U sometimes. So, yeah, you know, it's fleeting moments. PG's fine. The disc is rated 12 on the Blu-ray, but that's probably due to Devil's Cord, so... I swear, Space Babies is a fucking 12, I will be pissed. This is not a 12-rated episode, in my opinion, even with those scary scenes. And actually, the design of the boogeyman's actually pretty good. I think that's pretty well handled. And the scare, they do a good job with the scares. I don't really have a huge amount of negatives that would impact the story, but I do think it is a bit strange with the Space Baby stuff, and it is quite simple, it is quite cringy in places, especially on the first viewing. But I would say, to quote Five Who fans, it is a Be Kind Rewind episode. Not quoting them for this episode, quoting them from when they were reviewing Series 8 episodes back in 2014, and they had categories, and one of them was Be Kind Rewind, and I would say this is a Be Kind Rewind episode. It's got some fun, it's got some humour in it, a couple good scares, good monster design, some good acting. The main characters are on, like Shooty and Millie, are fantastic, and I love the rapport between the two of them. It's a bit of a shame that they don't kind of clash with each other across the series. That's not really a problem with this episode, so in itself, it's more of a series thing, but that's more for later down the line. Obviously, the first couple of episodes are going to be like more in sync with each other. Maybe start having tension maybe in the third episode, perhaps, depending on how the circumstances of them meeting and interacting and becoming friends are. Like, things are different every time, but I think for these two it works really well. Maybe there could be a bit more friction later in the series, but that's more for later, not so much for this one.
This one, they're actually really pretty damn close friends and really like it. Considering they met just only a few hours ago, they've been through quite a bit together, and yeah, it's really good rapport. And Millie and Shooty do a fantastic performances together. Because I mean, this episode was the fourth episode in production, because they did 4 and 5, then Christmas, and then this one and 3, then 2 and 6, and then 7 and 8. Plus, also, the Destination Scarra was done around the same time as 7 and 8 as well. But yeah, because this was the 5th episode filmed, and they'd had this dynamic down. They don't really interact with each other much in 4 and 5. More on that later. But once we got to Church and Ruby Road, they probably definitely nailed the interactions with each other, and we're just going full throttle from onwards with there. And because of that, we can definitely see a full throttle of the dynamic in the stories, even the episodes that were filmed before. But yeah, absolutely brilliant. So the visual effects also look really good. I mean, some of it does look obviously CG, especially the space stuff. But yeah, the sets also look good, and the production was handled really well. So yeah, I thought Space Babies was good. It's still a little bit weird and cringy in places because of the Space Babies and the boogeyman. I actually didn't say what it was made out of. Made from actual bogies, again, which I called because of the whole with the blowing the noses bits and being known as the bogeyman. I was like, it's made from that. It's made from the snot and bogies. But yeah, I think it's a decent episode. I just don't think it's season opener material. It's not the worst season opener. Like I said, I take it above New Earth, and I also take it above Asylum of the fucking Daleks and fucking Magician's Apprentice, which is familiar. This video is not made for kids, by the way. No, even though if this episode is scary scenes, maybe toned down a little bit, but still. I mean, someone called it Baby's first Doctor Who story, which I disagree with, because you've got some scenes that probably would scare the babies, like the actual babies in the episode, because you get some really scary bits with the monster, especially early on, and on the camera. It gets less scary as it goes along, but when it has those cuts and loud sounds and close-ups, and yeah, that's when it's trying to be really scary. That's the whole point, by the way. So no, I would not say this is Baby's first Doctor Who story just for that alone. But yeah, Space Babies, it's actually okay. I mean, it's not great, but it's fun. I enjoyed it. So I will be wrapping up this review of Space Babies with a 7 out of 10. Yes, a Be Kind Rewind fun episode. It's got its cringy moments, and you definitely need to watch it a few more times to be less cringy. Depends how much attention you're paying to it as well. Like if you're glued to the screen watching every single second of it, yeah, you might not feel so comfortable with it. But if you're kind of like it's kind of there to the side, and you're watching it, but you're also doing something else, or it's just in the background, it's not too bad. Same with Rosa and the racism. Like, it's really hard hitting, really impactful, and quite hard to watch the first 1 or 2 times. But by viewing number 3, you kind of expected what's coming, and you're ready for it, or you're used to it, and you can, you're able to watch it without. You're still affected by it, but it's not as hard hitting as it was. Not as a downgrade, but because you've seen it a few times, you know what's coming, so you still feel the impact, but it's not as upsetting or hard to watch as it used to be, because now you know what it is, and what it's doing, how it is, so you're able to watch it a bit more easily. Also, you might actually be able to discover elements of comedy you may have missed the first 1 or 2 times round because of those hard hitting feelings and hard to watch feelings. And the same comes here, but for cringe rather than racism is shit, isn't it? Feelings, if you know what I mean. Same with Demons of the Punjab, but again for other emotional reasons. So yeah, a couple more viewings, and you may not be cringing or as awkward as much, and you might be able to actually sort of enjoy it. And if not, that's completely fine. That's up to you. I'm personally thought it was okay at the time, and now I think it's slightly better than okay, but not perfect. I think it's still weird. I mean, it might even be this or the finale of the weakest episodes of the season, so everything in between is better, by the way. So yeah, it's between this and the finale, which are the weaker ones of the season. We've got to include Church of Ruby Road in there as well, and the 60 specials as a bonus. Yeah, but well, that means we've got more good stuff to look forward to, at least until the end. But yeah, heck, I would specify the second half of the finale actually is worse. I actually quite liked Legend of Ruby Sunday, but more on that on the finale review. But yeah, Space Babies, a Be Kind Rewind episode. And if you can't get into it, that's completely fine. But like I said, it doesn't quite feel like season opener vibes. I mean, it's not the worst season opener of the new series, let alone overall. But it is probably the one that feels like the least season opener material, at least for the revival anyway. Classic series, quite a lot of the time, didn't really worry about whether it was if it had to be an important story as the opener or the finale. Sometimes it did, but generally not so much. Especially in the 60s, where some of them were even holdovers from the previous season. A few exceptions, of course, like the War Games is an important season finale. 70s and 80s kind of get a bit more like focus on, okay, these ones definitely have to be the opening, some of these have to be the ending, etc. But for the most part, it wasn't so focused. It's with the new series that openers and finales has seemed to be more of the have been quite important, and with this one, yeah, as an opening doesn't quite work as the season opener. Second story of the Doctor's era, I guess, but first season opener, or first episode of a season even, not quite so much. And considering this is the first season of a new era, following on to those 4 specials, yeah, interesting choice. Well. But that's it from my review of Space Babies. A fairly positive one, but not overly positive. Although I do think the production is really bloody brilliant. So a lot of positive elements. It just doesn't. It's not quite a solid story yet, unfortunately, in terms of the writing or the feelies. But still, it's fine. Next time we've got something a bit more enjoyable and a bit more creative, as well as just plain better. The Devil's Chord. Well, I say that, I have to rewatch it, but from previous viewings, I think the next 5? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 5, maybe 6, if you count Legend of Ruby Sunday on its own, are stronger, so yeah, at least based on those first 1 and 2 viewing reactions, at least. Opinions. So yeah, next time is The Devil's Chord, which is going to be a whole lot of fun. Don't forget, there's always a twist at the end. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne YouTube channel.